Hi friends, welcome to my channel. My name's Fiddle. Today we are on episode 2 of the second floor for Madeline's house from the movie Jack and the Cuckoo Clock Heart. Today we'll be making wallpaper, wood paneling, doors, and windows if we have time. And as always, don't forget to check the link in the description. That will take you to the Scavenger Hunt where you can find the list of materials that you can use to make this stuff for yourself. Okay, are you ready? Let's go. We're going to start with making the wood paneling first. You'll need some poster board and some brown paint. The poster board I'm using is shiny on one side and dull on the other, and I painted on the dull side of the poster board. Each piece is 22 by 28 inches big, so I cut it down into smaller manageable pieces, and I think I used about 3 full-size pieces of the poster board for the wood paneling alone, and about 2.5 for the wallpaper. But anyway, you'll want to cover your whole poster board with a layer of brown. Once your poster board is completely dry, we're going to take a pair of scissors or even a wire brush, and we're going to scrape long lines into our poster board. We don't really want to rip it or pull up the paper, we just want to make some nice grooves in it. Keep going until you think it has a good enough wood texture. Once you're happy with the way that it looks, we need to mix up some black paint and water so we can make a wash and put it over top of our grooves so that way it sinks into it and makes it look even more like wood. It will dry a lot lighter than what it is when you put it on. The direction you go with the black layer is completely up to you. I like the tiger stripe look, so I go the opposite direction of my grooves. Once you've got it all painted, set it aside and let it dry. And we're going to move on to double-sided sticky tape. And you will need quite a bit of it. I went through 2 rolls of heavy-duty carpet tape. And unfortunately, I'm out now. But the good thing is that I made it all the way through putting the second floor together. If you don't have or want to use double-sided tape, you can always do it the other way where you glue the layers together. But I wouldn't do the gluing right yet. We have a few things to do before we can get that far. Oh, and one more thing. I did figure out that it is a lot easier to cut this tape with a craft knife or something like that. However, you are still going to get gummied up, so it's good to keep like rubbing alcohol or even hand sanitizer that has alcohol in it around you so that way if they get too gummed up, you can clean it off. And something I should have mentioned in the first tutorial while we were cutting the walls out, make sure you're cutting your pieces out with the corrugation going in opposite direction. You want it going both vertical and horizontal. Okay, back to taping. For the floor of the house, you do want to do double layer corrugated and double-sided sticky tape the top and bottom. For page 2 of the blueprint, both the bathroom and the room door walls need sticky tape on both front and back. For the rest of the pieces, tape the sides that are showing on the pattern. I hope that makes sense. I think I just confused myself. I guess I could say tape this side of the pattern, don't turn it over and tape the other side. But if you're doubling your walls, you'll be taping both sides anyways. That applies to everything except for one side of the toilet wall. Because you need 2 of them and they are a different angle, make sure you've got your right and your left right. For page 3 of our blueprint, one of the 6 tower walls will need tape on both sides, and both tower doors will need tape on both sides. The rest of the tower pieces only need tape on one side. For all of the pieces inside the red squares, I only used poster board for these, not the corrugated plastic. If you want to double these layers, you can, but you don't necessarily have to, because we need to put double-sided tape on both sides, front and back. For the potty roof, it is going to be corrugated plastic, and we do need to double sticky tape both sides, but not yet. We won't be adding it on until the house is almost completely finished. Once you're done doing that, if you are using double layers, you can go ahead and stick them all together unless it is a window wall. If it is a window wall, do not stick your layers together. We need that space so we can put windows in. And there are only two of them, one labeled the window wall and the other one is the potty outer wall. Once you have everything taped up and ready to go, your poster board wood should be dry enough that we can cut it into pieces. We are going to need a whole lot of 1-inch thick strips, and for some reason I didn't record myself doing this. But anyways, cut some of your poster board into 1-inch thick strips. We're going to start with the floor first. Pull off about 3 or 4 rows of sticky tape. Then start laying down all your wood strips as close together as you can get them. We want to try to minimize the white gap as much as you can. And you really want to try to get it in the right place on the first go, because peeling it back up and trying to stick it back down doesn't work out. Later on, I'll show you a new way that I figured out to fill in the gaps. Keep going until you reach the end, and then repeat the same process on the other side. I forgot to put chalk pastel on the scavenger hunt. Sorry about that. But you'll need either black or brown or both chalk pastel, and we're going to use a paintbrush and brush it into all of the white crevices. If you don't have chalk pastel, you could use paint and glue watered down. That's what I did with the first floor, and it works fine. You do just have to be a little bit careful about adding too much moisture because you could get more warping. It would also be a good idea to lay a trash bag or something like that down underneath of this for when you flip it over to do the other side. When you have all the cracks covered, take a dry rag and rub all over it so that way you can get as much of the excess off as possible. I didn't have to for mine afterwards, but when you are completely done with that, you may want to spray it with a clear fixative just to make sure the chalk stays in place. Oh no, I have some bad news. While doing editing and voiceover for this tutorial, I realized that I am missing quite a bit of footage. And it's not that I didn't record it, it's that it got deleted. And I did try to recover it, unfortunately it did not work, so the footage is just gone. I do have a solution, don't count me out yet. At first I was just going to completely remake it, which I realized I couldn't do because I'm almost out of material, and buying more isn't really an option right now, not for a little while anyways. But I do have enough material to make the smaller version, so that's what I'm going to do. Because technically your pattern is good for 2 size variations. I'm not really sure what you would consider the small one. You can just print your pattern and trace your pieces onto the material and make it that size. The process will be exactly the same, only a lot smaller. I've already started working on it. Off camera, I made the first floor last night, and I know this seems kind of weird, but I wasn't going to go through the process of making the second floor just to have the second floor, so I figured I might as well make the whole house. Hopefully, after I get this tutorial out, I'm going to start on the second floor and record it. And what I'll do is continue building it with the progress of the main 1/12 house. I will finish the second floor and then wait until I'm ready to do the 1/12 third floor, to do the third floor for the tiny house, so that way if I run into this problem again, I have the little house as backup. Okay, now that the drama's over, let's talk about what we're doing, because I've fallen way behind. We need to put our wallpaper on the walls, and because I know that whitewashing was a thing back then, I am just going with plain old poster board. Peel the backing of your tape, turn it upside down, and apply it to the poster board. I did use the doll side sticking out, so the shiny side is to my material. Then cut your pieces out, including the windows. Once all your walls have been wallpapered, we're going to move on to the windows. Unfortunately, we won't make it to the doors this episode. It made it a little bit too long, but it will be first thing next episode. For my first house, I bought a case of battery-operated lights, and I saved it to use it as a mold for windows. And I know that resin has a tendency to warp, so this may or may not work for you. This is just how I did it. As you can see, I did a few experiments with it to see what worked and what didn't. I used the larger piece for the windows. I'm just using this one as an example. Using my UV resin, I filled in the area with a thin layer, making sure everything was evenly covered and there was no air bubbles. Then cured them under my UV light. Once they were finally cured, I popped them off the plastic. I will say that it did warp it, so I pretty much got one use out of each section. But I'm glad that it worked, and I will still save these pieces for later to use them themselves as windows. And this is what they look like coming out of them. Don't mind my nails. This was in between waiting for paint dry when I was making the wood paneling. I used this method for the first floor bay windows and the toilet window. And with that, it brings us to the end of our tutorial. I'm sorry I couldn't fit the doors on here too, but I think it might be a whole episode on its own. If you've made it this far, thank you for being here. If you're new, welcome. And as always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment, as it all really helps me out a lot. Thank you, Ginger, and I'll see you next time.